If you're looking to make a statement, there isn't a vehicle that does it quite like a Mercedes-Benz G-Class. This vehicle has been part of the Mercedes family since 1979, and when it made its official debut here in America in 2002, it became an instant hit with wealthy celebrities and anyone who basically just wanted to make a statement when they arrived. Today I'm just outside of Portland, Oregon, over at Mount Hood, and we're testing out a 2018 G550. Now, although there is an all-new version coming, is this vehicle still worth a look? If you guys are looking for truly an iconic German car, that's what we're here to find out. Look at the G-Wagon. I mean, look at it, honestly. There is nothing else quite like it on the road, except for maybe a Wrangler, which is kind of what the G-Wagon is to Mercedes. This is a military vehicle. That's how it started life. And when it became a production car, it became an instant hit. I mean, it's very boxy, it's very traditional, it's off-road oriented. I mean, this is what a lot of celebrities or just wealthy people really want to drive if you want to make a statement. And although this design dates back to the 1990s, and honestly, Mercedes hasn't really changed it much. You can see the look of the front was updated back in 2012 with LED running lights right below the headlights. You also have a bi-xenon option for the headlight that will become standard on most of the models. And this particular one, it has a Diseño Mojave package. It's like a $14,000 option that gives you, part of that it gives you is this little grille guard at the front. And then this olive paint is also a $6,000 option. I mean, honestly, it's still a really imposing, good-looking truck that seriously will attract a lot of stares. I mean, it kind of will rub people the wrong way, depending on, you know, whether you're a greenie or you like a vehicle like this. Now, this particular one is just a G550. There's 4 different versions to choose from, 2 AMGs, and then there's a G550 4x4 squared, which gives you like another 10 inches of ground clearance. This one's just the base model. These ones are the optional $500 black finish wheels, which do look pretty nice. I think it really goes with the overall look of this vehicle. And again, it's not a very big vehicle size-wise. Its wheelbase is 112 inches long. It's about 187 inches long overall. I mean, not that much bigger than most of the mid-size SUVs you'll find in the segment. Now at the back, again, a very traditional military look with the spare tire on the back. A lot of people really like that. The taillights here aren't even LED, they're just regular incandescents. And this is a really just badass looking truck from every angle. I think anytime you see one coming out on the road, it's really going to stand out. Now, because it's a more traditional vehicle, the tailgate also opens up in a very traditional or non-traditional manner. It's got like a little button that you push here, and then this opens up. And by the way, this door is damn heavy. This is a really heavy car. Now, looking at the cargo capacity here, I couldn't actually find any official numbers, but surprisingly, it's relatively roomy back here, although the rear seats, they don't fold down flat. They do fold down, but you're gonna have a still high up load floor. But I mean, overall, this car wasn't designed with practicality in mind when it first came out. It was designed to be a military off-road vehicle. But other than that, you still have a decent amount of space when you open up the trunk area. So when you first walk up to the G-Wagon, I mean, obviously it makes a really strong first impression. It's a really cool car and it looks like a toy. Now, because this is a really old vehicle, it doesn't offer smart key access system with the intelligent key, but you can see here is the Mercedes-Benz key fob. This is the older key. Mercedes, I believe, has a newer key on some of their newer designed products, but you can see here just approaching the G-Wagon, obviously if you want to lock it, you got to push the lock button here, and then the mirror will electrically fold. And then when you want to unlock it, it makes a satisfying click noise, and that's what's really distinctive about this car. Now, when you want to open it, the door handle doesn't actually pull open. You have to push this, very old school style. And then when you shut it, I mean, listen to that noise. That is an iconic feature of the G-Wagon, and I believe the new one was able to keep that intact. Now, looking at this interior, this one is the Diseño two-tone with the brown saddle and black combination. It's a really nice looking interior, very old. I mean, when I look at this interior, it reminds me of a Mercedes from easily 10 years ago with a few updates to the infotainment technology. You can see there's a relatively larger size sunroof, but one thing I'm noticing, the running board helps you get in, but I wish there was kind of a handle here that I could grab because I'm short. But what I'll do is I'll kind of just grab the steering wheel and kind of pull myself in, and then when you shut the door, again, it sounds really nice and solid. Now, as I said before, no intelligent access key, and I believe you could get push to start. I know some Mercedes products, they allow you to take this button out which this one may just not have it, but because it doesn't have it, you gotta stick the key in the ignition and then just turn it. And the engine sounds just like the 4-liter bi-turbo in a lot of AMG products. It sounds incredible. It revs up really nice. Honestly, the noise this thing makes is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing with that. Now, because it's also so narrow, you can see here, the interior doesn't feel roomy at all, but what you do get is a really nice commanding view of the road. You can see exactly where the front is of this car. It also makes it really good when you're off-roading because it has just the ability to squeeze through narrow areas where like a wider vehicle couldn't go through. Now you can see here the interior has nice materials. It's all leather right there over the airbag cover. There's a nice little grab handle here. The glove compartment, it's a little bit cheap actually, the door. It's not lined with felt. It does have some kind of indentation for cup holders, but it's relatively small in its size. You can see there is a USB port in the actual glove compartment. Now when you look at the door panel here, it's soft touch right here and then leather stitching right there. It's padded right there where your elbows would rest. The window is one touch automatic down, not automatic up, which really surprised me. You have your power mirror controls here where you can fold in the side mirrors, which is good. The steering wheel also is not my favorite in terms of the design. It looks like, again, from an older Mercedes product. It is a power tilt telescoping wheel, which is nice. It actually has paddles on the wheel. Why bother? This is a car that I wouldn't deem as sporty one bit. Maybe the AMG models could use it. But you can see the gauges are also pretty old school. It's not the full LCD that you get in the newer Mercedes products or the upcoming new G-Wagon. This head unit here is newer. Mercedes added this, I believe, a couple of years ago. And then when you put the vehicle into reverse, you do have a nice little backup camera here with some good quality, although the actual orientation looks a little bit strange. That spare tire definitely makes it look a little bit strange. You can change this view if you'd like. It's not a touchscreen, of course. You have to use the wheel, and you can change the different views. There's like a trailer view if you guys like. This screen, as I mentioned, is controlled from this little command wheel, which is again the older system, which is definitely good if you guys aren't used to the newer system. This is the controller that controls the 7-speed automatic. It's kind of an electronic shifter. Push forward for reverse, pull back for drive. P is the park button right there, which again is pretty standard stuff. You have dual zone climate control here. You have heated and cooled seats, which Mercedes allows you to turn both at the same time. Not sure why you'd want to do that. You have 3 locking differentials in this truck, which is again a very unique feature for the segment, or just in general. You don't find cars with a locking center, rear, and front diff. This is really great for helping you get unstuck when you're really rock crawling. You have a lot of regular button controls here. This controller for the screen, you can see there's your navigation display. It's nothing super groundbreaking. Mercedes does a really good job with it, but again, the screen size itself is pretty small. Your radio information is all controlled there. Even though this looks like it could be a touchscreen, don't touch it because it's not a touchscreen. It's controlled by the actual wheel here. A lot more other buttons here. There's actually a cigarette lighter here to remind you how old this vehicle is. You have a traditional pull style handbrake. The center console here is pretty soft touch, a little bit on the small side, but you have 2 more USB ports in there, which is nice. I mean, really what I love about this interior is just the big commanding view of the road. Other than that, it's luxurious enough, but I'd be really curious to experience the all-new version, which has basically the same screens from the new S-Class, and see how Mercedes has really updated. But this, in general, feels old, but it's not a bad thing. It's still a really nice vehicle to sit inside of. So when you look at the back seat of the G-Wagon, you can see because it has a very small wheelbase, the rear seat to access it is a little bit on the tight side. It's kind of a narrow opening to get back here, but at least there is a running board to help you get in, and then there's no handles here to help short folks like myself. I can't imagine how difficult it's going to be to get into that 4x4 squared, but just like the front seats, when you get back here and shut the door, I love the sound of that door. It sounds like a rifle going off. It's just a really solid sound. The space back here is definitely what I wouldn't say, or it's not spacious, basically. This is where I had the front seat to drive. My knees are pretty close to the actual seat. There is good foot space underneath the rear or the front seat, which is nice. And then there's a pretty decent flat floor back here, but as you can see, there's no armrest here. And overall, the seat design looks just like the front. It's kind of an older style of the seat in terms of the design. The seat itself is actually surprisingly comfortable. The leather feels nice. Materials, it's soft touch back here with some more leather. There's some dual mat pockets here. There's some rear vents. You have cup holders here, which is nice because there aren't really that many cup holders in the front, as you saw, and then there's no folding armrest here. The headroom is pretty good, but overall, I mean, if you really need to actually carry people, you're probably better off with the Mercedes GLE instead of this. So under the G-Wagon's ridiculously long hood, you're actually gonna find a relatively new engine. Mercedes put this engine in the car a couple years ago. It's the same Hot V 4-liter bi-turbo V8 that you find in a lot of other AMG products. Now, in this application, it's kind of been detuned a little bit. It makes 416 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque. Now, in America, the G-Wagon is only available with gasoline engines, but you can get this with so many different powertrains across the world with a diesel. But if in case this isn't enough power, there's also a G63 AMG, which has a 5.5-liter twin-turbo V8. And then for the even more ridiculous, there's a G65 AMG that has a twin-turbo V12, which honestly, this V8 barely fits. So I'd be curious to see how the V12 actually fits in this car. Now, this thing is damn heavy. Considering it's not that big on the outside, it weighs almost 6,000 pounds, but it still tows 7,000 pounds. It all goes out through a 7-speed automatic transmission. In case you care about the fuel economy, it's rated at 13 in the city, 14 on the highway. Please put premium gas in it, but let's get out on the road and see how it performs, shall we? All right, so I have actually never had a chance to drive a G-Wagon, so this is going to be an enlightening experience for me as well. So as I said before, this one doesn't have push button start, but you could get it. I believe you could get the button put in. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to double check that. But let's get out on the road and see how this thing performs when I put the parking brake down. I'm so used to those electronic parking brakes that automatically turn off nowadays. When I have a car that doesn't have it, I get so confused. Now, I'm kind of in this like rocky area, as you guys saw from the background. I'm gonna kind of go over this little ridge portion, which honestly shouldn't be a problem for this type of car. And it's always in 4-wheel drive. It does have a low range. And then with like 9 inches of ground clearance, I mean, this thing will make quick work of any kind of terrain. It's ridiculous. I mean, going over this ridge here, yeah, no problem whatsoever scraping. I love this thing already. I absolutely love it. But the majority of owners will stay on the road with this car. And God, listen to that door when it shuts. So let's get it out on the actual open road and see how it feels out in this environment. So the transmission actually is a 7-speed auto. It's very old school in the fact that it either has an eco mode, sport mode, or manual mode. There's kind of no normal. It's the old way of Mercedes doing it in the past. I put it into its sport setting here. Now this car actually does have auto start stop, which did come with this generation engine. It got a little sideways on me there. And this thing feels pretty interesting. It bucks around a lot. The suspension is super soft. The engine is buttery smooth though. I love the engine in this car. It's a great match to the car. Mercedes says it'll get to 60 in like just under 6 seconds, which is great. But God, oh my God, this thing feels like it's gonna roll over, so you gotta slow down. But I have to say, even though this thing is not fun to drive in the corners, I'm having a ball driving it just because look at this view. I'm literally like, there's nothing else on the road that feels like this when you're driving it from this view, from the driver's side. Now again, this car has recirculating ball type steering, which is old technology, oh my God. The new one will have rack and pinion steering, and this also has a live axle, front and rear. The new one will have an independent front suspension, which is definitely kind of bringing it in the times, but my gosh, just driving this thing down the road, I'm finding the steering wheel, I have to make constant corrections to it because the car doesn't really stay straight very well, which is as expected with the recirculating ball type steering. That's one of the reasons why everybody went to a rack and pinion steering. It's a hydraulic power steering setup, which again, all old school technology, but man, just going around this corner here, I don't like corners in this car. It's definitely still an interesting experience. It still feels relatively fun just from the suspension component. It feels so soft and the whole body just kind of bucks over each other. And if you've never driven something like this, yeah, it'll remind you that cars have been improved significantly since then. Now the brake pedal also feels a little bit on the mushy side. You have good brakes, but the car is heavy. But let's floor it from a stop here. Oh! Yeah, it definitely feels like it'll get to 60 in like 5.9 seconds, which is honestly pretty quick considering how heavy this beast is. So it's a really surprising car to drive, for sure. Now I'm trying to avoid all the snow on the road here just because I don't really know what's underneath the snow, and I don't want to damage these, you know, big 20-inch wheels with these tires that are just kind of all-season tires. But put your foot down here, and the 7-speed auto is definitely down at, you know, a gear or two compared to some of the competition, which I don't really know if this car has any competition, to be honest. But I know the new G-Wagon will have the 9-speed automatic from Mercedes, which is a better transmission all around. But when you floor it, it can take a little bit of a second for it to downshift. But God, every time you get on the throttle, you get on the brakes, the whole car just kind of wallows around. It's so soft, and oh, I just feel like it's gonna roll over. I just don't think this car would be worth it to get the AMG version. Now, the AMG version obviously has more power. It gets to 60 in like 5.2 seconds. It's not that big of a difference considering the fact that you're gonna lose some of the off-road ability with the AMG model because it has 22-inch wheels, it's got a sportier suspension. This is not a great chassis to start with for it being sporty. And also, it's a brick. It literally just goes through the wind, and it's just like a big brick. That's why it gets horrible gas mileage. And you know what? If you guys go for the AMG model, it's actually going to drink even more gas than this, which is already, you know, ridiculous. This 4-liter V8 though is a really awesome partner for this car. And Mercedes did it right by keeping this powertrain in the all-new version, just upping or improving the transmission. God, like bumps and stuff, they don't bother this thing one bit. Oh my God. I don't like corners in this thing. Oh, but it'll put a smile on your face still, just driving this thing. It's just, it kind of makes you feel like you're king of the road. And there are other vehicles that make you feel like that, but nothing has made me feel like I'm king of the road more than a G-Wagon. I can't even begin to imagine how cool the 4x4 square version would feel with its port axles. It sits up, you know, gives you 17.5 inches of ground clearance. This has like 9 inches, which is plenty, but that one with even more ground clearance, oh, what a cool car. Seriously, this is a cool car, and even though it's not, you know, great in the corners, I imagine, you know, this thing off-road is just unstoppable. It has that same feeling that a Wrangler would give you, for sure. But it just is even cooler because it's not a Wrangler, it's a Mercedes, and it's still relatively luxurious on the inside. Now, in terms of quietness, aside from the muted engine noise from that side exit exhaust, it's relatively quiet in here, and you do hear some wind noise because this thing is not aerodynamic. The seats, they do hug you, actually. You can adjust the bolstering of it, which is nice. They feel a little bit on the hard side. And the visibility in here is pretty good. I mean, actually, it's excellent. You can see everything. So another reason why a lot of people love this thing, because you can see out of it great. You feel like you're towering over everyone. You feel really safe. It feels like I'm driving a freaking tank. And that's one of the biggest selling factors of the G-Wagon. So one thing I don't like is how narrow it feels on the road. Mercedes says the new one is 5 inches wider, and you're definitely going to notice that. I haven't driven it yet. Nobody in America has. But man, one of the coolest SUVs for 2018, even though this thing is damn old. If you can afford the expensive price tag and you want something that stands out, that makes a statement, this one definitely deserves to be at the top of your list. So as you guys know, in my line of work, I get to drive some pretty sweet cars. And even though I've had the opportunity to drive some supercars, this 2018 G-Wagon definitely falls on my list of one of the coolest cars you can buy for 2018. And although this model is about to be replaced, as you guys saw from the test drive, it's imprecise steering, it's super soft suspension, that powerful V8 that makes great noises, to how narrow it is, but how tall it is. It's a really cool, fun to drive vehicle that I actually thought I wouldn't like this car, but after driving it, I actually really like the way it drives. And so I'm really excited to actually get behind the wheel of the all-new 2019 model when it goes on sale at the end of 2018. But anyways, if you guys are interested in picking up the old model, what's it gonna cost to pick up this piece of iconic German, you know, car history here that you can buy in America? Well, this car is not cheap. It starts at $123,600 for the base G550 like this one. Now this one is surprisingly not optioned very much. You can option this up till your heart's content, and you can literally double the price if you wanted to. The 4x4 squared is $227,000, which is the same price as the V12 G65. This one just has the $15,000 Disegno Mojave package, that $6,000 olive paint. This one is around $142,000, which is surprisingly reasonable for a G-Wagon. Still a ridiculously stupid amount of money, but hey, if you can afford afford a car like this and you want to make a statement, then this one should be at the top of your list. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview of this 2018 Mercedes-Benz G550. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.